Hey, what's up, guys? Today I want to talk about something. Recently, I want to talk about UFC 143, and I want to go over the whole entire pay-per-view here and talk about how I feel, because I'm a huge UFC fan, huge MMA fan, period, as I kind of explained in my last commentary. And this is kind of my first podcast kind of video on YouTube, so I just want to make this thing amazing. But anyways, let's get right to it. So first off, UFC 143 just happened this week, I believe, in Las Vegas, the Mandalay Bay Arena Center, whatever it's called, I don't know. And it was a huge MMA event, for any of you that don't know, which is mixed martial arts. The headlining event was Carlos Condit versus Nick Diaz, and it was for the interim welterweight championship title for UFC. GSP is currently out with I believe it's a knee injury or ACL injury, one of the two. I believe it's a knee injury, it might be both, I don't know. But he'll be back at the end of this year, I believe, to fight. So he would fight the winner of the fight, which was, of course, Carlos Condit. So there was a lot of talk, and there's been a lot of talk, I mean, on both sides. Fans of Carlos Condit, supposedly ex-fans of Carlos Condit, and fans of Nick Diaz. And I personally am a fan of both of them, but I'm actually a bigger Carlos Condit fan. I don't know why. I'm kind of a fan of everybody that fights for Jackson's MMA. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm biased because my favorite fighter is John Jones or what. I really don't know, but I am a huge fan of Nick Diaz as well. And I scored the fight very close. I think it could have went either way, but I did actually give it to Carlos Condit by a small amount. You know, I scored the fight, what did I score it? 47-46 or 48-47, one of the two, but I scored it a very, very close fight. I know one of the judges scored it like an absurd, I don't even remember what it was. It was like 49-46 or something. It was absolutely ridiculous what one of the judges scored it. It was a very close fight. It could have gone either way, but I really do think the winner of that fight was Carlos Condit, and I am going to explain why. I'm not just going to pick a side and be like, oh, he won, you can't tell me anything. And I know that some of you are like, hey, Nick Diaz won. I respect you for your opinion, and you very well have a reason to have that opinion. I mean, you could arguably say Bisping beat Sonnen if you wanted to, and I'll use some examples to explain my point. So here we go. I think Carlos Condit did win the fight. I do think maybe it could have been a split decision. It could have been anything. I don't know. I think it was a close fight. I know a lot of people are already saying Carlos Condit ran from Nick Diaz the whole time. There was certain parts where people would be like, oh, he's jogging. Look at him jogging away from Nick Diaz. The thing is, if you're going to fight Nick Diaz and you're going to stand directly in front of him, number one, you're either going to end up like Paul Daly. Wow, I am having a horrible speech impediment today. Paul Daly, or you're going to end up like BJ Penn. All right, so there's no way to beat Nick Diaz without utilizing lateral movement. All right, the whole time I felt like Carlos Condit was fighting like a boxer. He was using his head. Him and everybody over at Jackson's, they had an amazing game plan, and you cannot hate them for that. I mean, they did. I mean, there's no other way I can think of personally to have beaten Nick Diaz. I think they did exactly what they needed to do. He utilized some head movement. I mean, 50 significant. He outstruck Nick Diaz. I mean, who else has done that? You know what I mean? Not very many people can outstrike Nick Diaz, and he did that. Carlos Condit did that. If you look at their faces afterwards, I mean, Nick Diaz's was much more beat up. If you're a fighter, number one, you have to know the rules. You have to know that striking is automatically, if you outstrike somebody with 50 significant strikes, not even counting, just wow. It doesn't matter what you had as far as Octagon Control goes. And I know a lot of people try to use the Octagon Control thing. And if you know anything about MMA, if you've been watching any MMA events, you know there was one fight recently where Octagon Control was really important. I felt like it was a neck-and-neck fight. And I actually did think that the person I chose lost the fight. It was the Mike Easton versus Jerry Papazian, I believe is his name. Go back and watch that fight. That fight was recently. I think it was the UFC on Fox 2 event. I think it was one of the undercard fights. I can't remember, but yeah, go watch that fight, man. That's the only fight that I've seen in my lifetime where Octagon Control has really determined the fight. There was another fight, I can't remember the name of the fighter, but they really did nickname that dude the Running Man, and he actually got kicked out of the UFC for that. I don't know, it was a fight where the dude did this and he was like walking towards him like that. The guy who he was chasing actually lost his UFC career behind that fight. So the truth is, Carlos Condit did not run. He utilized lateral movement, and that won him the fight. I mean, he outstruck Nick Diaz. Who does that? You know what I mean? It was a great fight. My only beef with Nick Diaz is that he let his emotions get the best of him at the end. And regardless of who you are, if your emotions get the best of you and you quit and you forget to just be grateful for the fact that you're there, that you had that opportunity. I mean, yeah, I can understand being ticked, but I mean, number one, you don't quit and you don't take that victory away from somebody else, because you have so many fans that rally behind anything you say. And I mean, just go look at any UFC video and you'll see that. So great fight. If they have a rematch, it's whatever. I don't think it'll happen, but it was a great fight. I bet the only real loser of that night, the only person that got robbed, in my opinion, was Dana White. He lost his Omega fight between Nick Diaz and BJPN, and I think that's their fault. They deserve that for overlooking Carlos Condit. If you look at the prime time and the countdown show, I mean, yeah, he got his spot, but I mean, he was looked at as this fighter that wouldn't win. That's kind of like Phil Davis beating Rashad Evans. I mean, you know, nobody really counted Phil Davis as a winner, and he didn't win the fight. He got treated as the way everybody expected him to get treated in that fight. He did last 5 rounds, which means he has an amazingly bright future, but it happens, you know. But anyways, that's been my take. If you have your own take, please be respectful. Leave it in the comments. I'm happy to read it, and we can have an interesting debate. I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I'm not a keyboard warrior, but I'm happy to debate with you. I'm happy to read your responses, all of them. I don't care what you say. Just be respectful. And yeah, that's been my take on UFC 143, Carlos Condit versus Nick Diaz. Carlos Condit is now the interim welterweight champion and will be facing GSP at the end of this year. That is, if he doesn't fight and lose his title in between there. So yeah, all right guys, I'll see you later, and maybe I'll make some more of these. Talking with Terrence. See ya.